This meeting is
Oh,
being recorded. Hello.
welcome. We have one of Artisan's shining stars. He is our lead tech. He runs our Seattle, and this is Alan, everybody. Alan is technician extraordinaire, tool appreciator, pilot, and organist, and organ builder. Everything. We've been doing, Alan, we've been doing this little series on tools and geeking out to tools. Favorite tools, specialty tools, tool boxes, tool bags, and everything. And so Stacey and I were like, wow, if we can get Coburn and Alan on, these guys are like absolutely in the trenches, road warriors. They're doing it every day. It looks like Coburn is just connecting now too. And so Coburn runs the Denver branch, and he's phenomenal and a very big avid tool collector as well. And so I thought this would be a fun time. Hey, Coburn. We thought this might be a good time for like Q&A. So people are going to just like bombard you with questions of like, what's your favorite tool? What did you spend too much money on? What could you have spent more money on? What do you take into customers' houses? What, all of that. Are you both down for this? Are you ready? Coburn's ready. He looks like bring it on. So, Alan, you just got a new toolkit and you sent me pictures of it.
Yeah. So I have it next to me. It's actually,
do? Okay.
It's hard to see. It's actually a fishing tackle box. Technically on the side here, this is for fishing poles, but it fits two tuning hammers. And on the other side, all my screwdrivers, the combination tool just sticking out there. You can grab Phillips, you can grab anything. You don't need to go fishing for it. Pretty convenient. And then like an action screwdriver. So
okay.
That's pretty much it. I mean, for tuning, pretty much all I have to do is open it up. Up top is kind of like a cooler. All my mutes are in this section. Also a couple of things. All my glues, liquids, everything is in here. So if anything leaked, it wouldn't leak.
Oh, that's nice.
Actually sealed. Yeah, just adhesives like lubricants, just water. I don't really use many cleaners. I think water is by itself the best cleaner and won't dissolve shellac, which is really important.
Oh, that's a good point. How do you carry this thing? Is there a handle? Is there a
It's a backpack. You can just wear it.
It is a backpack.
Yeah, it's literally just a backpack. But like yeah, it carries 99% of what I need for most tunings.
Wow.
And then again for pinning and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that.
Like I have you can just since it holds 5 little tackle boxes, you can put tools in here. You can have a pinning kit here. You can have tools, supplies, more tool supplies.
Wait, was that a miscellaneous like supplies like flanges and
this has flanges, dampers, springs, miscellaneous felts, leather. Basically 99% of stuff that could go wrong is you can
right there.
deal with that. And I just like it because I'm very disorganized and like that forces me to put back things where they belong. Like and again, like to even access my tuning stuff, I don't even need to open any compartments. I just take it out of the side and get going.
So here's a question for both you and Coburn. Okay, and you kind of answer this, but do you do like a primary kit and an auxiliary kit and then a stringing kit and then a cleaning kit? How do you go about that on your day to day? Coburn, you there? He's like, I'm not going to talk to you. There you are.
Yeah, I've got the doctor's bag here that I'm slowly unpacking with the general tools, a little tuning bag full of the tuning stuff. But then I'll have a cylinder bag. It's actually for percussion instruments. It's by Mike Balter. And that's where I hold cleaning stuff like the data vacuum cleaner.
Yep.
and then a bag for stringing, and then a bag currently just for regulation and other stuff.
And so Alan, what about you? So you're saying that you take that backpack into every service call,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
like 9 out of 10 service calls, that's no problem. You can get everything done.
Yeah, yeah. Usually, the only thing I carry around in addition to this is like my little compressor. I have like a quiet compressor that has its own handle, so you can take it into people's homes. Obviously, wearing it as a backpack frees up a hand, so you can still open the door, shake their hand, pet the
Yeah.
dog, do whatever else you need to do in Seattle. But yeah, I bring microfiber cloths too all the time. And one thing I didn't say, but like I always keep like if you use up, let's say a Corey thing, fill one with water and just have it around and mark it as water. So you have a little spray bottle when you need it.
So you use a lot of water. This is the second time is water your primary as far as the cleaning agent?
Yeah, I think I use water except like in high gloss pianos, I'll use
Okay.
the Corey Super High Gloss because
Yep.
obviously water is going to leave a film on high gloss pianos.
Okay.
And keys, I use the Corey Key Bright on keys. That's the
Yeah.
other, yeah.
What are each of you using for tuning hammers nowadays?
That's the Fuhan
Yeah.
out of what is it? Tucson, Arizona.
Okay. Got it.
And it's I think you can see it's got the extension on top, so that takes it up to 13 inches, but I never use the 11-inch option. And then I have a 4-inch extension, which I have to put like electrical tape around here just to unscrew it, just because the connection is so tight.
Yeah.
And I'll use the 4-inch extension, just like on some of the Yamaha pianos that are
Okay.
brand new, and the pins are just super tight. And
Got it.
it's a carbon fiber hammer, so it's really lightweight, and you get to feel the pin instantly.
Okay. So the extra light. Okay.
What angle of the head are you using? Are you using a 10 degree, 12.5 degree?
I have a 10 degree, and then I have a 15 degree in the doctor's bag, and I hardly ever have to switch it out. I hardly ever use the 15 degree. Reason being is because I have the I believe that's 40 millimeters,
Yeah.
the tip itself, so it's already an extended tip.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the extended tips like that. All right. Alan, I think you bought something
Okay.
recently, right?
Yeah, I do. So I spent a lot of money on a what is this? This is a Rayburn hammer. And
Oh, there you
this is this is
go.
the this is the shorter hammer, and the nice thing too is it has the 12.5 tip, but I have another tip for this. Like if I need it, that's higher angle. I
Uh-huh.
generally don't need it, honestly. And side by side, I like
Okay,
I like my
you have
Fusion.
the Fusion as well.
Um, but the difference is you can see that the
Wow.
Fujian is longer, and the length actually makes a big difference in fatigue and accuracy. I just feel, I mean, the Rayburn's a good hammer, but I'm just faster, and I feel like I have more control with the Fujian.
Whoa.
But I took a picture today and I sent it to Stacy where A1 on A0 on a Wurlitzer
I'll
console.
share it.
The Fujian wouldn't fit. It would because it wouldn't make the clearing because it's kind of bulky.
Really?
But this did. So
I
carrying
run into that same problem with the yep,
Oh yeah, there it is.
that
Yeah.
exact. I'll even remove the clip on the left,
Oh, wow.
and then tune the pin,
Wow.
and then put the clip, and then screw the clip back in real quick.
Even with the clip that didn't work.
So I don't know if I've told everybody this, but if you're ever going to work on an Estonia grand piano, you're going to find that they have this music rack slides that seem like to make it so you can't get to the pins. That music rack slide, that the rail actually comes off. FYI, if you're ever on an Estonia grand, they just slides off. So just maybe next time I'm at one, I'll take a picture and post it to the group. But yeah, that's interesting. So you each have a Fujian hammer, and you both like it. It's lightweight. Initially, Coburn, I think you had a yawn tuning hammer, which is what I have. And I'm
Oh
trying
no,
to.
I think I had the like just the $25 one that you can get online like anywhere, and it had
Oh, is
like
that what it was? Okay.
it was like a gooseneck, and it was really flexible. Like I can't ever imagine going back to something with so much flex in it.
It makes a big difference. And also, guys, I don't know if you know this. I mean, I just found this out maybe, I don't know, last week or something. Morgan Cowell, who's like another piano technician in the Midwest. He's affiliated with this network proptn.org. And I think you can actually, they have a thing where you can rent tuning hammers.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's right.
so you can, yeah, if proptn, you know, you can put in the chat.
Wow.
You can, yeah, because so you can find out, like, you know, there's some interesting levers out there. Like Levitan makes one that's kind of like almost like an upside down U, which supposedly,
Yeah.
you know, puts less torque. I've never used one, but you can rent one for like $45 or something, and see if it's for you. You can also rent. I think that, yeah, they have a Fujin. You can rent, and I don't think, you know, some people say, oh, lighter is better. You know, you just have to kind of live with a tuning hammer to see if you like it, because it's such a
Yes.
personal thing. So
Yeah, a lot of times we go to these conventions and get all excited about seeing
yeah,
all these hammers, and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's the one." And then after a week of having it in your house, you're like, "Oh man, this doesn't work." So
yeah,
being able to rent it's a big deal. That's cool. I never heard of that.
you're
I have a
What?
couple of questions for
Yeah,
you guys. If you is that okay?
yeah,
One
go
for
for it.
each of you. Okay, I'll give you two and just answer both of them. Can you think of a tool that you bought but you just never used? You're like, why did I even buy this? And number two, you have a tool that you're like, why didn't I buy this like immediately at the beginning?
Good
You
question.
go first. You go first, Alan.
okay. I bought a Rayburn impact hammer, which, you know, if you don't know what it is, it's like a ratcheting. It doesn't ratchet. That's not the right word, but it has, like, you know, maybe 15 degrees of play left or right, and a weight up top, so you can knock a pin in tune. The problem with that is, like, not all pins have the same amount of torque, so, you know, it's very hard to get a feel for the particular piano tuning. I tried it, I didn't like it. The idea is that, you know, it helps your shoulder, your elbow, but I've never got it to work. And I sold it to someone, and I followed up with them, and they're like, no, I tried it too, couldn't get it to work. Not knocking people who do. If you can master it early on, that's great, but never got it to work. Um,
Good one.
I need a second to think. I don't know. There's lots of interesting
You can
tools.
think about it if you don't know right
Well,
away. I
just
put you on the
here's
spot.
one easy one like that. Just this is one. What did I get? From Renner. It's for an upright, and it's a jig where you can just quickly set let off on an upright. Here, 1 second. I have a model here. You know, you put this.
Awesome.
You
Look at him
can put
go.
this. You can put this here. It's not good. You know, and you know, you can press the key until it just winks. You know, so
Oh,
this holds
interesting.
it off, so you can set. And if you need it more in the base or something, you can push it down in one, or less in the
Yeah,
base. Push one side down, so that it's stupid simple. And also,
yeah.
if you don't want to get this is just a stupid simple tool. You can also use your center pin case, which works just as well, honestly. If you just wedge your center pin case in between the back rail and
Mhm.
the hammers, and set let off where you want it, that works just as well.
Alan, have you ever used those magnet strips for let off?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have that. I have that too. I mean, and my attitude too is, like, you know, jigs make everything easy. So, like, you know, something that, like, my philosophy for towards tuning is that, you know, when you go to someone's house, you don't want to tune the piano, you'd want to make it better. You know,
Mhm.
you want to know that, oh, like, so and so is taking care of the piano, therefore it's in better shape. So, you know, you want to, like, set your price point and make sure you give yourself enough time, because how long does it take to, like, improve let off on an upright piano? Or even, like, you know, just shim the rail and make sure that the blow distance is right. I
Yeah,
mean, if you have the jigs and you know how to do it, you could do it in 10 or 15 minutes. And
yeah.
it makes a huge improvement in sound and touch and feel. Yeah, just making these habits and not just, oh, I'll do it once in a while during a regulation, but like
Mm,
think about doing it at like every tuning.
that's really good. Making it a habit.
Uh, Tool that I've not used once was, I believe it's called the Davis key height tool. And it's interesting because you set it on it's somewhere in the closet right now, but you set it on the front of the key, when you pull the key slip off, you set it on the bottom
Yes.
there, and then it measures the key height via the center of the key, which is odd because the usual key height is just the long stick that you set over the keys, and that's measuring the key height based off of the edges of the keys as opposed to the center of the keys. The only thing that I can see that coming into a problem is with really worn out and dented ivories where the center is lower
Yep.
than the edges. But I haven't once used the tool. The
And it's how much
Davis,
was it?
I don't remember. Each tool probably is an average of like $30 to $50 individually.
I think the
Like
impact hammer is a
even
little
just
bit
like a
more than
little,
that, right, Alan?
well, each small regulation tool, like even a capstan tool could be like 30 to 50, and it's just a little sliver of metal.
That's true.
Yeah. Also, like, going back to, you mentioned capstan tool. I have like 3 or 4 different capstan tools. I have a universal one I got from Shaft, and like
Mhm,
the tip is so huge that it doesn't actually fit in like 50-60% of capstans.
mhm.
So, just because you ordered the tool and you have it, see if there's ways, it may not work for every piano. You may have to modify it. You may have to buy a second one to make sure. And also 2 other things. Obviously, David, I'm sure you told him about the upright lid prop. It's just, you got to have one. I mean, otherwise it's very
Yeah,
difficult. And the other thing is Westall, Nickel and Gross, they make really nice tools. This is like a step above your average
yeah.
center pin tool. It just feels nicer. It has a better action, and I don't know. I just enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think that limits the possibility, since it is nice and stiffer, but it actually works better. It lessens the likelihood of you pushing out one of those bushings,
Yeah.
which is huge. Corbin, what's your favorite tool that you use all the time?
Um,
Yeah, he's a little laughs.
Slippers.
Slippers.
Yeah, and
Wow.
they're in a little bag. I used to just put them in an old loaf of bread bag, but then
Yeah.
my friends got mad at me for using the loaf of bread bag all the time, so they got me a little slipper bag, and then it just slips. It fits right into one of the pockets in the doctor's
That's
bag.
awesome.
And my feet get incredibly cold. In fact, one customer's house up in Seattle, the lady's floor was so cold I could not focus on anything she was saying until I had the slippers on my feet.
I thought you were gonna say some kind of a tuning mute. I love it. That's awesome.
Cameron,
No,
that's
and
like
then
genius. That's genius.
um, portable battery
Oh yeah.
for with
Yep. Because your
charging
ETD.
cord, obviously, and then yeah, because um, previous iPod Touch 7 is what it is, I think,
Yeah.
that I had would go 3 tunings before I'd have to charge it. This one goes like 90% of the tuning and then it needs a charge.
Mm. Okay.
But the other charging cord went to this headlamp from Home Depot. It's like $35, but it is incredibly
Yeah.
bright. It's like 1,000 lumen. But I noticed not to tune with a bright spotlight on because the bright spotlight will start heating up the strings.
Oh, interesting.
So if I'm like tuning the last octave, like C7 to C8, and where the strings are short, then it'll start heating up the strings. So I turn down
What
the bright. I turn down the brightness on it and make sure the spotlight's not shining on the strings, just the floodlight option.
a lot of the people in the group, are starting out and, they're building their client base, they're working on tunings. I think for a lot of folks here, the idea of 3 or 4 tunings a day seems pretty outrageous, or like that seems like a lot. what advice do you have for them? Like, hey, this is, how is it manageable? How do you do it? Because both Coburn and Allen are, they know how to do it. They can do it in their sleep, and that's one of the things that makes them so great is they know how to manage their time well. But I'm curious for both you and Alan, Coburn, what is it? What hurdles did you have to go through? And by the way, Coburn came to Artisan as a graduate from the original PTA course, and so he came to us through that course and joined the team, and has been amazing. So
I think the key thing is when I learned that doing a floor tunings for a piano shop was really inexpensive. I thought, man, I'm spending an hour and 15 minutes doing a tuning, and I'm only getting paid for 30 minutes worth of time.
yeah,
I really need to get my tunings down to 30 minutes. And try as I might, the lowest I can get it down to was a median of 35 minutes. And that was, I just took a spreadsheet and charted, or I just took a notepad and charted how long it took me to do 50 tunings. And over the 50, the lowest was 22 minutes, the highest was 50 minutes, and then the median was 35. So find what's best for you, pick a number, shoot for it. And if you can't get there, then just find what the median is and always make the median your, if it's 30 minutes, if it's 40 minutes, then make that your goal. After doing 50 tunings, find your median and then stick to it.
Andy, are you okay? You look like you're gonna like kill over there. Are you okay?
So
The less you spend on each note, the more you can think of the entire piano as a whole.
okay, can I chime in there? I uh I wouldn't put a number on tuning. I think that's stupid. I mean, okay, so admittedly, I took the Randy Potter course like 12 years ago, and one of the things that the course insisted on early on was like setting the temperament by ear. I'm not saying you have to do that. You know, you can set the temperament however you want, but the focus is on speed, but not speed for speed's sake, speed for not hanging up over the being perfect, 100% perfect, but getting in the ballpark and just repeating that. Yeah, I don't. I mean, and then the other thing is like, you know, Yamahas might take you less time, but like a Kimball Spinet or something might take you like an hour. I mean, sometimes they take me an hour or like maybe an hour and 10 minutes because like the unisons just don't want to tune. And oh, another tool. Sorry, now I'm still on it. Um, this is a string seating tool, and it's hard to see, but there's a little groove,
Yeah,
and you can seat the string. And sometimes, you know, those pianos that have really um, unstable treble registers, or you have a lot of false beats, you know, if you just apply a little bit of pressure right next to the bridge to seat the string, just like a little bit, and kind of massage it. Um, if you play it again and it's out of tune, that means it was not seated and you just seated it, and you probably you could have even knocked out a false beat. So like this is,
yeah,
you know, sometimes even like if you, so like the manufacturers Yamaha, Kawai, they have a whole like what do you call it, setup process for new pianos that are just unboxed. And one of the things they say is, you know, seat the strings. I mean, and that's something that gets overlooked a lot, but like it makes a big difference because better tuning stability, better tone, crisper unisons. I don't do it to all the pianos, but like if I have time and it's a piano teacher or it's a piano that gets used for recording, I might take the time to go that extra step to seat the
it's
string.
that's really good because both of you kind of hit on the same thing: is not getting so overly hyper focused on an individual note. And I think Coburn, you said the piano as an entirety, and then Alan, you alluded to that as well, because I think that technicians early on, we get hyper focused, especially early on in our craft, where we just want to get this one note perfect and we just hyper focus, and we'll spend 2 3 4 hours sometimes in the early days of trying to get these tunings done. And so I did the thing that kind of Coburn did, which is like testing myself early on. But you're right that one of the things that I got discouraged about is, yeah, I can knock out a tuning in 30 minutes on a Yamaha, but when I get to a gold Branson 4.5 foot grand, it's all out the window. And so careful not to get discouraged.
Yeah, and
So Alan,
knowing when
Alan,
to move on.
on your testing, or not on your tunings, do you feel like you go through multiple passes every tuning, or what's your typical process?
I think so. So we have kind of differing opinions about what we consider a pitch raise. So the software we use CyberTuner. It compensates for. I'd say it's pretty accurate. You know, up to like 15 cents and stuff like that. But if a piano is like 12 cents out, I can most of the time get away with one pass, and then I'll just listen to it again at the end. And if unisons catch my ear or something, or maybe I'll just check the tenor break or the top octave. But otherwise, I try to get by in one pass. Today, the piano was a half step flat, so I tuned it once, tuned it again, and then did the third time by ear, just checking all the intervals and notes. But again, I was going to say, don't get hung up over like if you're struggling with the tenor note, or like, you know, some people struggle with the top octave, some people struggle in the tenor. Just move on, like come back to it, because you know there may be a false beat that you're trying to fix, but you're not going to fix. And coming back to it with fresh ears after you just finished tuning the top treble, some of those notes will stick out like a sore thumb at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about you, Coburn? Any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've been experimenting with doing pitch raises. So doing two passes and doing the first pass to being the bulk of it, being the pitch raise itself with I think it's TuneLab, where you can tune the notes without having to mute the strings. You get to see all three strings on the TuneLab screen individually. And I just try to get it done as quick as possible, 15, 20 minutes, and then go back through a second time with CyberTuner and do a 30 to 35-minute pass.
Oh, that's great. This is so fun. Oh my gosh.
What was the thing that was the hardest to overcome, going from I'm learning how to work on pianos to now I'm going into customer's house? Was there a mental thing? Was there a skill level thing? Was there a social thing? What for each of you was the biggest hurdle, going from I'm learning how to tune and now I'm literally inside somebody's house?
I was kind of thinking about this earlier. So I kind of think of it as like a new doctor. Let's say you just graduated medical school and like a guy comes in and he has slightly high blood pressure. Like, are you going to immediately jump and give him blood pressure medication? Or are you going to, you know, look at this holistically and say, oh, he's a little nervous, his blood pressure might be a little higher. I think as piano technicians, we have to be the same way. And like, because we know now, you guys have a great foundation for this measurement should be this measurement should be this measurement should be this. But in the real world, you know, you can get away with fudging those numbers a little bit. Like, you know, even Yamaha like gives a little leeway for, you know, hammer blow distance and things like that. And let's say you got to someone's house and you didn't talk to them or ask them, and you said, "Oh, I fixed the blow distance," and they're like, "Well, now it's quieter." Well, yeah, but it's what it's supposed to be. No, but I liked it louder. So, I mean, you know, just knowing how and when to do those things. I mean, I tend to listen, and in the house, I don't ask so many questions. I mean, I take a lot of stuff from like context clues, like are there level one piano books? Do they have a kid that's taking lessons, or are they a professional? If they're a professional, you know, you can have a more in-depth conversation. Like, hey, you know, this piano seems a little loud. Do you want to? Is this okay for you? And sometimes they might say like, oh yeah, it is a little loud. I've just been like playing softer. But then you can jump in and say, oh, we can fix this. This is just a simple like 30-minute thing we can do. Um, but yeah, like being holistic as opposed to just having the book knowledge can really, you know, help a lot of situations.
Oh, that's
Hey,
such a good point. Go ahead, David.
oh, I'm sorry. I have to dart off early because I have to go catch a plane, but I am going to see you all on Friday morning, and I get to show my toolkit on Friday. Alan and Coburn, I've been stuck in Arizona with flight stuff, so I'm finally able to get back to Oregon, and I will see you all on Friday morning for coffee hour. Alan Coburn, it is always great to see you, and we will connect again soon. Especially Alan, if you're going to be in town getting your plane, I would love to see it. But
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
anyways, I
Alan
will see
just
you
bought a
all.
plane, so that's kind of a cool thing. He's also a pilot.
All
Bye,
right,
David.
I'll see you all later.
See ya.
Alan, I really like what you said about holistic because that is so true. You don't want to change the piano without asking them. You don't want to change the way it sounds without, like sometimes they
Yeah.
like it brighter. Like, yeah, that was very,
And I also like, going before attacking the hammers with needles or with sandpaper, making sure that everything else is right. And just, I oftentimes I'll just, go through and gently shape the hammers, not taking the grooves out, but like just taking the edge off the sound. That makes a big difference. And I think I consider that maintenance. I don't consider that to be like a big procedure that you have to budget time for.
oh, that's great. Hey, Coburn, how about you? Transitioning from going into customers' homes, what advice would you have to our people today?
For me, it's just again finding out what the customer plays or who plays, if it's themselves or if it's their son or daughter or even a family member visiting for Christmas. Um, when the last time the piano was tuned, how long they've had it, and just some of the history. I like asking those few general questions.
Well said. Yeah. Okay, got a couple more questions. Alan, tell us when you need to leave to your next tuning, and I'll let you go because I don't want to make you
Like
late.
5 minutes.
Okay, okay. So, couple more questions I got. These are good. What is your mute technique as you go up middle into treble?
And I just actually answered that. So I
Oh,
mean,
you
basically,
did. You did.
basically for an upright, I just use a PAPS mute, and I used to use rubber mutes, but like as rubber mutes get older, they're prone to falling out. And honestly, like a PAPS mute, the little clip mutes are just so much more efficient, and they don't fall out. So, but grands I use a pretty thick. Hang on.
So you use a large felt mute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are
I
you
actually
going outside string, starting with the middle, then tuning the outside
No,
to
I, I
match?
I I tune the left, middle, then right. Yeah. I mean, because I don't if you uh yeah, you'd need to carry two mutes if you wanted to tune that way. And I don't necessarily think it's better as long as you listen to the tuning at the end. And if anything sounds off or you hear any beats, maybe there's some disagreement.
perfect.
There was Daniel Levitan, interesting fellow whose um, presence online is one person as a percussionist and a percussion composer, but then also completely different. He's also a piano technician. He created the Levitan hammer. In his book, the art or the craft of piano tuning, I think is called. He has several different muting options, and one of them that I really like is tuning the center string while you mute the outer two. Then you open up the left string, tune it to the center, but then you wait on the last one and you actually go up the next half step and tune the next half step center string. And you come back for that last one on the note below um, after you tune the center of the next note up. So Daniel Levitan, art of piano tuning, the craft of piano tuning. He's got several good muting techniques in that book.
Can I just comment once? So I think Rayburn actually did studies as well on tuning stability, and they said, if you start at A, I mean, I used to tune the temperament and then move out from there, but there's been studies that say tuning the bass first actually gets better tuning stability, and I haven't noticed anything about like Coburn, you mentioned that technique, and I think the argument too is that if you put so this is from the organ world too. It's really interesting. There's a rank of pipes called a celeste. So you have two pipes, one in tune and then one tune slightly sharp. And it might be 2 or 3 cents sharp. But if you have them 3 feet apart, it creates a really nice undulating sound. But if you move them together, the pitch locks in. So, I think the worry is that, if you have two similarly pitched and one is like a half cent out, it might pull in with the string next to it. I don't think that's as much of a problem as, people might say it is on pianos. But that's just something to think about.
That Daniel Levitan method I was talking about, that last one, where you're kind of bouncing in between the notes. I'd only do that like if the notes are within 5 cents. Otherwise, then I'm just going left to right the entire way up if it's like 10 cents or more.
All right. Okay, another one. This is a good question. How do you deal with cleanup at customer's house if you're like doing voicing or hammer shaping or anything like that? How do you not make it? Because it like goes everywhere. Like, what do you do to keep the mess down?
I just don't care. My philosophy is, my job is to get the dust out of the piano. I don't, people will vacuum after you leave anyway. If it's bad, I'll try to clean it up, but I might apologize and say, sorry, I made some dust. 99% of the time, they're just happy to have the dust out of the piano where they can't get to it. So, I don't think it's that much of a concern. I mean, I think just being a good guest in someone's home is like, taking off your shoes when you come in and just having good manners. I like not putting drinks or anything on their piano or their items, or just good manners. Like there's no, but everything else is kind of superfluous. I don't know.
Awesome. Okay, Coburn, how about you?
I have that little oval data vac, DATA VAC, the data vac, that fits in that oval, or that fits in, yeah, that cylindrical bag. And if I don't have to do a 2-pass tuning, if I can just do a 1-pass, then I'll spend some time just ever so lightly shaving off the edges of the crown of the hammer, not right on the top, but just the edges. And then if I see that there's a lot of dust made from that, then I'll just vacuum that up. But if the hammers are like really tough and dust isn't really forming from them, then I'll just leave it as is.
Perfect. Perfect. I hope does that answer your question pretty good? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Andy said your tuning times are hard to fathom at this point because he's at about 1.5 hours. That's actually pretty good. 1.5 hours already. I'm not even like, no, that's like pretty that's a pretty good start. Yeah. Okay. What are the key lessons you have learned that have made you more efficient and fast with your tunings?
I think I alluded to it earlier, but just not agonizing over unisons, because like it seems almost like I go through phases where, like, like a few months ago, after every tuning, I was checking the tenor because there was always some tenor note where I was like agonizing over something. And I don't know, it just yeah, don't agonize. 1.5 hours is good. Like you should not be focused on speed. Speed is not a concern. Your livelihood is not going to be in jeopardy if it takes you 15 more minutes to tune. And plus, if you're using a software that doesn't compensate for overpulling, you just have to plan for a second pass, and that's all right. You are some weeks I'll be faster, some weeks will be slower. You're human. That's really honestly an hour and a half is pretty good. If it's over 2 hours, that's like not, I don't know if I'd want to be tuning in someone's home, like if it took me that long just to get through the tuning. And if you knew, and plus it's perfectly all right to say, um, maybe tune it low like the first time. Like if it's a half step flat, maybe you can tune it like 12 cents flat or something, if they're okay with that. Because obviously the further you have to move, the less stable it's going to be, and it's going to definitely take another pass. So I mean, it's up to you and your comfort level. Don't be chasing speed. Speed is not, just practice, and there's really no substitute for just doing it.
That's great. Cobra.
For me it's the desire to do more than just the tuning that gets me through the tuning um, in a faster pace. Like I want to do voicing. I want to make sure I get to that. I want to tighten the bench legs. I want to make sure that the pedals are adjusted. I want to do some dusting on the outside. If I can get to those four other things, maybe even just like a little bit of regulation, like touching up lost motion on an upright on 12 notes that bobble a little bit, then great. I love doing that. And so I like to get through the tuning so that way I can look forward to doing those things that not only just make the piano sound better, but make the overall experience better. The piano, it looks cleaner. The pedals feel great. The bench is not moving around underneath the person who's playing. So I like to get to the extra stuff.
And you do every time. It's like, yeah, a lot of times if they're a new customer, we try to give them, well, sometimes they self-schedule for an hour and a half. We try to give them 2 hours if it's been a long time since it's been tuned and it's like we don't have any, like if a customer calls, they're like, it hasn't been tuned for 10 years or something, then we try to give a little extra time at the tuning because it's gonna need, you're just gonna need the time. So that helps a little bit, but no, that's great. That's great. What other? Yeah.
If I do have to do a two pass, like it's more than 30 cents off, then I'll typically just do two passes. That means I'm going to go ahead and hold off on the dusting or adjusting the pedals or tightening the bench until the next appointment. That way I can get through two passes.
How long does
Unless
it
it is a full.
How long does it
go ahead.
take the bench?
Not long, but long enough to where doing a second pass will negate having that option.
And sorry, to go back to the original topic of this meeting, tools and supplies, having everything accessible and like so you don't have to go digging around for it. Like these pockets are great because like I don't have to go fishing around for it. If I have to go fishing around for something, it's going to add 5 minutes or add 10 minutes. And just having the tools and also like, these are great. I got these at Harbor Freight. These are, they're self-adjusting pliers. So, you don't have to carry around a million sets of them to tighten bench bolts. By the way, I don't support Harbor Freight, but for those, that was actually an all right purchase.
I know there's like a Harbor Freight joke going on all the time. So, okay. I guess what, oh, here's another question. Do you guys ever, do you tune everything to A440? Or do you, yeah, tune it relative to itself? Yeah, that you kind of alluded to that already, but that is a good question. Do you ever, tune the piano relative to itself?
So the other thing, so now I moved from Syracuse, New York, like central New York, very dry winters, very humid summers, to the Pacific Northwest, which is very stable humidity wise. Most of the time I tune to 440, but if it's within like 2 cents, I might actually tune the piano to itself because I don't have any evidence to back it up, but it could be more stable. I know that, at Juilliard, they actually do float the pitch a little bit because, again, it's just a much harsher environment for pianos. I mean, I think it's totally up to you guys. I suggest collecting data as much as you can about pianos. So we typically carry around, um, hygrometers, and hygrometer information is useless by itself. You also need to take down where the A's are. So like sample A3, A4, A5. It may not give you terribly useful information, but like, you might be able to see, oh, this piano is more or less stable. If you're in the East Coast or something, it might present an opportunity to sell a Madame Chaser or something like that. Yeah, sorry, back to the original question. Yeah, I tune 440 here. Yeah, because most of the time, I mean, seasonal pitch shifts are around 7 cents, and I find it easier to tune larger, more out of tune pianos than something that's 1 cent off or 2 cent off. Because if you're going to move the pin, you're going to shift it more than just 1 cent. So I'm actually, this is ironic, but definitely, you guys starting out, I'd much rather tune a piano that's 12 cents flat than a piano that's 1 cent sharp. That will make a lot of sense to you as you progress. But yeah, that won't get easier because you have to move the pin, and if you don't move the pin, you're not going to have a very stable tuning. So
Well
I
said.
don't know. I just encourage you guys to like experiment and find what works, and know why stuff works. Sorry, again, I'm on my soapbox here, but like think of a baker. Like if a baker wanted to make like a harder cookie or something, like they know all the variables. They know temperature, they know ratios, they know what adding more baking soda does. They know what adding. So know why. No, so just knowing your lubricants, knowing what each one of them does, what your adhesives do, what materials they're compatible with. You can experiment yourself, but like, follow the manufacturer's guidelines and realize someone the other day they said, "Oh, all you have to do just put talc on knuckles." And I'm like, don't put talc on knuckles because talc will actually, knowing what talc is and what talc does, you'd know not to use it on pianos. And they said, "Oh, but I've seen it done before." I said, "No, you've seen Teflon, which looks like talc, but has the opposite characteristics." So I have nothing against experimenting with new adhesives, new lubricants, but like, know the properties and know the dry times, know what they recommend. Uh, like because this is a profession that like we encourage creativity. Like if you find a better way to set let off or a better tool or something that's ratcheting, please make it and sell it. We want to buy it if it makes our jobs easier. So
I say as far as sticking to A440 or floating, I've never really tried the floating option. Especially since I've got where I'm at, have a big influx of new customers. Everything is already just like 30 to 40 to 50 cents off. So I'm just bringing it up to A440 the first time. But when I do start seeing customers again, I'll at that point decide whether I want to leave it where it is or bring it back to 440. It just depends too, like because Denver, where I'm at, is again inside, indoors, really dry in the winter and really humid in the summer. Um, so that's going to have a big effect on the tuning, and especially at the tenor bass break, to where I don't even think floating would be a viable option because of how far off the piano would be. I think it would, well, how far off the piano is from like the upper portion is from the bass section. I think floating wouldn't be a great idea. But as far as there is one thing that's not related to that question did want to show off, and that's using Protect CLP. Or this is actually an alternative. There's a technician, registered technician, John Page, and he sells counterbearing lubrication or CBL. And I think literally you just have to find his email on the PTG forum and email him asking him for a pint of CBL. But just put it in these little Supply 88 bottles. Comes in like a little carrying case, and then you just grab a bulk of brushes and you just put a little bit of the oil on the bearing edge. So like where the tuning pins are, you put them where the string goes to the speaking length area, um, the pressure bar, and then right below the pressure bar on an upright, and then a little bit on the A graphs, and even the felt, the understring felt, um, just in front of the tuning pins on a grand. And it's I've heard it called power steering for tuning, and it just with the carbon fiber hammer and the lubrication oil makes moving 1 cent really easy, sometimes a little too easy. So uh, pianos that are really old, like 100 years old with a lot of rust, I'll be a little bit more generous with the oil because I really don't want any strings breaking.
but
So
don't get it on the tuning pins. Do not
yeah,
get it on the tuning
yeah,
pins.
don't get it on the tuning pins.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because we've had that question before about lubricating the V-bar and stuff. Like, does it actually make it easier to tune? Does it actually prevent strings from breaking? And you both do that.
I,
That's
I think it does. And also just
yeah.
like, tuning down, breaking the rust before you tune up. Like, you can just like give it a good whack. It doesn't have to be a one careful thing. Just knock the rust off and then pull it. And usually if a string's about to break, you will feel it. You will develop a feel for what a string about to break is going to feel like. And that usually has a specific feeling once you get used to it. Yeah. Oh, before I go, sorry, I have one last thing. Um, in my toolkit, definitely. So, a lot of people, there's a question about callbacks here, and squeak is a big one. But like Yamahas and stuff like that, sometimes they have squeaky pedals. These little rubber grommets here, that go, in the on the metal pin, they harden over time. They harden over like 15, 20 years. And a lot of these Yamahas that we're tuning are 15, 20, 30 years old. And these are hardened. So you can add lubricant, but what is that going to do? That's going to start squeaking again. So I strongly recommend just buying, they're like $1 or $2 each. Just buy a bunch of them and like replace them, because rubber doesn't need a lubricant. Rubber is meant to stop squeaks. If it's squeaking, then the rubber is bad and it really should be replaced. So just, get these rubber things. On shaft, they're like pedal bushing grommet, and one says loud and one says soft. I think one is for Yamaha, one is for Kawai. I don't remember which is which, but
Pretty
just
sure that's what it is. I've ordered that is such a good advice.
but
I've
just
ordered
buy
that for
them, and
all
because
the time.
again, knowing what it is and why it's there, it's rubber, it doesn't need lubricant. But sometimes anyway, if you do have one squeaking and you don't have lube on you, a lot of times you'll notice in the pin there's like a black ring. Clean it off on your shirt, and sometimes you'll notice that and then you might be able to use a dry lubricant, or like, and there's a couple of different things you can use. There's there's a Teflon goo, like that CLP. I forget what it's called. It might be made by CLP, but that might also work in the interim. But definitely just replace the rubber. Anytime there's plastic in a piano, carry around plastic parts. And in particular, spinets, like, Baldwin in some of their spinets, they have these little rubber donuts, little grommets. And
Yeah, I use one of those today.
someone will comment, oh, there's a bunch of keys clicking, and your first like thing is like, is it loose hammerheads? Is it like pins walking out? Is it like something in the key bed? No, it's those rubber grommets are actually causing the clicking. And just try taking it. Well, maybe don't try taking it unless you have spares, because those rubber grommets, like that are now 40 or 50 years, will literally just break because they're so brittle. Some people, like if you have one or two and you don't have any rubber grommets on you, there's like these forks, and then the rubber grommet slips into those forks. You can actually squeeze them slightly, and that will actually get rid of the clip. But like, you really should just replace all of them.
So Alan, before you go, what repairs do you feel come up most often?
Um, Where does that come up most often?
Squeaky
I,
pedal, a sticky key, the key is
I,
clicking.
well, Coburn said it, bobbling hammers on uprights. Uprights, particularly Yamahas, well, certain Yamahas are only designed to work with a certain blow distance. And what happens is, and even Kawai, is that as a piano ages, that blow distance increases, and there's not enough aftertouch. And you can, uh, again, just okay. Back on my horse again. You have three things in an upright. That you only have three things to remember in an upright. Three things. If you take nothing else away, take this: blow distance, key dip, let off. Blow distance, key dip, let off, and
You
they
forgot
all
one.
affect aftertouch. They all affect aftertouch. So if you change one parameter, the other two also, or one of them is also changed. So what happens is, you then, if you have bobbling hammers, check the first thing you should check is the blow distance. Correct the blow distance, shim the rail, and then take off the lost motion. And 9 times out of 10, I promise you, the bobbling will go away, because the key dip generally doesn't change on pianos, but that blow distance does, and that's what'll, and then that in combination with the the lack of dip for the added distance will make a hammer bobble.
I was going to say the fourth thing on the upright is the lost motion. And when I notice the bobbling, I'll take a look at the blow distance, the let off, and the dip, and notice that they all need a little bit of adjusting, but the one that takes care of the bobbling almost instantly is reducing that lost motion. And that'll take care of the other three pretty quickly in most cases.
Hang on, so lost motion and aftertouch are actually the same thing in uprights. Lost motion and aftertouch. Lost motion. I don't know if it's a form of aftertouch, but it's like it actually adds that place where that it's not doing anything. So but think of those three things. Aftertouch is in the middle, so making sure that the blow distance is correct, and the let off is correct. Usually, just fix the blow distance and then adjust the lost motion, and then it'll be perfect. Yeah. So don't think about it as being lost motion. Well, anytime you adjust the blow distance on an upright, you'll need to adjust the lost motion regardless. That's just something you need to do. So, yeah. Anyway.
But that is one of the tools in my regular tuning kit is just a capstan tool. That way I can quickly go and tweak any of the bobbling notes real quickly.
Perfect. Any other questions before we have a couple minutes before? It's been so fun to have you guys on. I text these guys and I'll talk to them on the phone, but I don't get to see them in person. We're all in different states, so it's so fun to see you guys. I can't stop smiling. Yeah, any other questions before we end today? Or
Well, I'd like to see that let off tool that he used, that real simple thing, the little, if there was a name for that and a supplier.
My thing. I think it's called just look at Renner. And it's under their technician tools. Yeah. And also, I was gonna say, it's useful to carry around, different tools for different things. I have yet another way to, adjust capstans, but you will need more than one tool to adjust a capstan. And also, you may even need if it's a spinet, you may even need like an 1/8 of an inch ratchet to screw in the little grommets. Sometimes they're hex heads. But you will find this stuff out in the field. Just the more experience you get, the better off you'll be. But just because you have one tool, this is a tool that doesn't work too well because it's too thick. I have another tool that's thinner. Does make a big difference.
And two things you're going to want right away is a magnetic pickup tool, and then a claw extension tool for whenever the screw or small parts get stuck. Both of those, the claw and the magnetic tool, are going to come real handy real quick.
that was great. You guys, thank you so much. That was so fun to have you guys on. If you guys have a lot more questions, we could do it again sometime because it was fun to see all of you. It was so fun. I guess the next thing will be coffee hour on Friday, and David will show his bag because he made a really simple bag. I have him doing like 2 tunings. I have him doing a few Thursday and Friday, so he'll get to use his new bag for the first time. So he'll get to talk to us about it after using it for a little bit. So I'm excited for that. And thank you, Alan and Cobran, so much for joining us today. That was so great. Thank you. And we'll see you guys all on Friday.
Yeah, thank you a lot. Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.